Imagine your entire life has been shaped by an invisible force, a law so deeply ingrained in your psyche that you follow it without even realizing it. This law dictates what you fear, what you desire, and even what you believe about yourself. Yet it wasn't written by any government, religion, or authority. It lives within you, hidden in the unconscious depths of your mind. Carl Jung dedicated his life to exploring the hidden forces that shape human behavior, and he uncovered a truth so unsettling that most people instinctively turn away from it. This truth, if understood and confronted, could lead to profound personal freedom, but if ignored, it could trap you in endless cycles of self-sabotage, fear, and suffering. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this forbidden law is the key to unlocking your true potential. But be warned, this knowledge comes with a challenge. Once you see the truth, you can't unsee it, and the final revelation will be the most powerful of all, something that could forever change how you understand yourself and the world. Jung believed that the mind is divided into multiple layers, with the conscious self, the you, that you present to the world, being only the surface. Beneath this, in the vast depths of the unconscious, lies something far more complex, a hidden part of yourself that you have spent your entire life avoiding. This hidden part is what Jung called the shadow. The shadow consists of all the aspects of yourself that you have rejected, suppressed, or denied. It is made up of the emotions you were told were unacceptable, the desires you were taught to be ashamed of, and even the strengths you never fully embraced. From them we are born. We begin to learn what is acceptable and what is not. Parents, teachers, and society shape our understanding of who we should be. We're praised for some behaviors and punished, whether directly or subtly, for others. Over time, we learn to hide certain parts of ourselves to gain approval, to fit in, to feel safe. But what happens to the parts we push away? They do not disappear. They sink into the unconscious, where they continue to influence our thoughts, behaviors, and emotions without us even realizing it. The more we deny our shadow, the more control it has over us. It manifests in unexpected ways through self-doubt, irrational fears, destructive patterns, and even through the people we are drawn to or repelled by. Have you ever noticed how the traits you dislike most in others often reflect something hidden within yourself? When someone's arrogance, selfishness, or ambition irritates you deeply, it may not be because of them, but because they mirror something in your own shadow that you have not accepted. Jung called this projection. When we reject something within ourselves, we unconsciously project it onto others, blaming them for what we cannot face in ourselves. And this leads us to the forbidden law that governs your life. You must confront your shadow, or it will control you. To break this law is to remain asleep, to live under the illusion that you fully understand yourself while your unconscious dictates your choices. But to wake up, to break free from this hidden control, is to do what most people fear, to look directly into the darkest parts of yourself and accept them as part of who you are. This is not easy. Facing your shadow means confronting uncomfortable truths. It means admitting that you are not only the person you try to be, but also the person you fear becoming. It means acknowledging your jealousy, your anger, your selfishness, your weaknesses, and even the hidden desires that you have spent years trying to ignore. But here is the paradox. Within your shadow lies not only your darkness, but also your greatest power. The parts of yourself that you have denied also contain the raw energy of your true potential. Your deepest fears often point to your greatest strengths, and the emotions you suppress hold the key to your personal transformation. Why do people repeat the same mistakes? Why do they find themselves in toxic relationships, self-destructive habits, or unfulfilling careers? Because their shadow is leading them, guiding their actions from beneath the surface. Until you confront your shadow, you will continue to be controlled by forces you do not understand. But what happens when you finally face it? When you stop running and turn to meet the hidden parts of yourself with honesty, this is where true growth begins. Jung called this process individuation, the journey of integrating all aspects of the self, both light and dark, into a whole, authentic being. Ask yourself, what parts of yourself have you been avoiding? What emotions make you uncomfortable? What do you see in others that triggers something deep within you? These are clues, signals from your unconscious, guiding you toward the parts of yourself that need to be seen. In the next part, we will explore the consequences of ignoring the shadow and the steps you can take to integrate it, unlocking the power that lies within. But before we continue, reflect on this. Do you truly know who you are, or have you only met the version of yourself that you allow the world to see? Think about this. If your shadow holds the parts of yourself you have rejected, what happens when you continue to ignore it? What happens when the emotions, desires, and fears you suppress remain buried, influencing your thoughts and actions from the depths of your unconscious? Carl Jung warned that the more we suppress the shadow, the stronger it becomes. When we refuse to acknowledge our hidden aspects, they do not disappear. They take control in ways we do not expect. This is why people find themselves trapped in patterns they cannot escape. Why do some sabotage their own happiness? Why do others find themselves drawn to relationships that bring them pain? Why do we often act in ways that contradict our own best interests? The answer lies in the shadow. The shadow is not just an abstract concept. It is alive within you, shaping your life in ways you may not even realize. The emotions you suppress will find a way to express themselves. The anger you deny may surface as passive aggressiveness or unexplained resentment. The desires you reject may manifest in impulsive, reckless behavior. The fears you refuse to face may keep you locked in cycles of avoidance, preventing you from taking the risks that could lead to growth. Think about your own life. Have you ever felt an intense reaction to something or someone only to wonder later why it affected you so deeply? Have you ever found yourself caught in a situation you swore you would never repeat? These moments are signs that your shadow is at work. When we do not integrate the shadow, it operates in the dark, controlling us like a puppet master pulling invisible strings. But what happens when we finally confront it? This is where transformation begins. Jung believed that true psychological growth, what he called individuation, only happens when we integrate the shadow. Integration does not mean indulging in destructive impulses or acting on every suppressed emotion. It means recognizing these hidden parts of ourselves and bringing them into conscious awareness so they no longer control us unconsciously. The process of integrating the shadow is not easy, but it is necessary. It requires self-honesty, reflection, and a willingness to see yourself fully, not just the idealized version you present to the world, but the whole truth. And this is where most people turn away. The mind resists this kind of deep work because it's uncomfortable. It is far easier to continue blaming external circumstances, to see ourselves as victims of fate, rather than architects of our own lives. But if you are watching this, something inside you already knows the truth. There is a part of you that is ready to wake up, to step beyond the illusions you have been living under. The question is, are you willing to take that step? Let's break this down into practical terms. How can you begin integrating your shadow? The first step is awareness. Start by observing your reactions. Pay attention to what triggers strong emotional responses in you, whether it be anger, fear, jealousy, or even admiration. These reactions are clues to what lies hidden in your shadow. For example, if you feel deep resentment toward people who are confident and successful, ask yourself why. Is it because they remind you of something you wish you could be? If arrogance in others bothers you, is it because you were taught that confidence is dangerous or unacceptable? If someone's vulnerability makes you uncomfortable, is it because you were raised to believe that emotions are a sign of weakness? Once you identify these hidden aspects, the next step is acceptance. This does not mean acting on every suppressed desire or impulse, but it does mean acknowledging that these parts of you exist. You are not just the person you try to be, you are also the person you avoid facing, and that is okay. Jung believed that wholeness is not achieved by denying the shadow, but by embracing it. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, he wrote, but by making the darkness conscious. This means allowing yourself to see your own contradictions, to recognize your own flaws, and to accept that you are not meant to be perfect. You are meant to be whole. The moment you stop fighting your shadow is the moment you take back your power. When you integrate your shadow, it no longer has control over you. Instead of acting out unconsciously, you begin to make choices with full awareness. Instead of projecting your hidden fears onto others, you take responsibility for your own growth. This is the difference between those who remain asleep and those who wake up. The asleep continue to be controlled by their unconscious fears, repeating the same cycles over and over again. The awake dare to break the forbidden law, to face themselves fully without illusions, and step into their true power. But here is where it gets even deeper. What if I told you that your greatest strengths are also hidden within your shadow? That the very things you have been suppressing are the keys to your transformation? In the next part, we will explore the incredible power that awaits those who integrate their shadow and why the final revelation may be the most life-changing truth you will ever hear. If you have followed this journey so far, you are already beginning to see the truth, that the parts of yourself you have spent years rejecting are not your enemies. They're the missing pieces of who you are. But what happens when you finally integrate them? What lies beyond the fear, beyond the resistance? Carl Jung believed that within the shadow lies not only our suppressed fears and flaws, but also our greatest untapped potential. This is the paradox. What we fear facing the most often contains the very strengths we need to transform our lives. The confidence you admire in others but feel uncomfortable embracing within yourself, it is part of your shadow. The ambition you have suppressed because you were taught to be humble is also in your shadow. The emotions you were told were too much, the dreams you abandoned because they seemed unrealistic, the power you feared because you were conditioned to be small. All of these are locked away, waiting for you to reclaim them. And this is where the real magic happens. When you integrate your shadow, you do not just overcome fear, you awaken a new level of personal power. You begin to see yourself in a completely different way. No longer divided between who you pretend to be and who you truly are, you become whole. And when you are whole, you are unstoppable. But let's be clear, this process is not comfortable. It requires deep self-examination, honesty, and the courage to go where most people refuse to look. The world does not encourage shadow work because the world benefits from people who remain unaware of their own power. Think about it. Entire industries thrive on your insecurities. Social structures are designed to keep people small, obedient, and afraid of their own depths. The more disconnected you are from your true self, the easier you are to control. This is why facing your shadow is an act of rebellion. It is an act of waking up in a world that prefers you to stay asleep. But once you see the truth, you cannot unsee it. You begin to recognize the ways in which you have been conditioned to reject yourself, to fear your own instincts, to doubt your own inner wisdom. And once you reclaim these lost parts, you step into a version of yourself that is no longer bound by those limitations. So how do you begin? How do you actually do this work? The first step is radical self-awareness. This means paying attention to your emotions, your reactions, and your patterns. Notice what triggers you, what makes you feel defensive, what makes You feel small. What makes you feel unworthy? These are the places where your shadow is hiding. Instead of pushing these feelings away, sit with them. Ask yourself, what is this trying to teach me? The second step is self-acceptance. This is where most people struggle. It is one thing to become aware of your shadow. It is another to accept it without judgment. You must understand that you are not good or bad. You are a whole human being, capable of both light and darkness. True power comes from integrating both. The third step is expression. Once you acknowledge and accept these hidden parts, you must find a way to integrate them into your life. This does not mean acting on every impulse or becoming reckless. It means allowing yourself to be fully present, to express your truth without shame, and to live in alignment with who you truly are rather than who you were taught to be. Think about someone you admire, someone who seems truly free, confident, and powerful. What makes them different? It is not that they have no shadow, it is that they have integrated it. They have faced their darkness, embraced their strengths, and stepped into their full potential. And you can do the same. But here is the final and most powerful truth. The moment you integrate your shadow, the world begins to shift around you. Your relationships change because you are no longer projecting your hidden fears onto others. Your opportunities expand because you are no longer sabotaging your own success. Your entire energy transforms, drawing people and experiences that align with your true self. This is why shadow work is the key to freedom. It is not just about healing, it is about unlocking a level of personal power that few ever dare to access. And those who do, they change the world. In the final part of this journey, we will uncover the last and most profound truth about the Huiskonzut, shadow, one that will challenge everything you thought you knew about yourself and reality itself. Are you ready to take the final step? If so, let me know, and we will continue now. We have arrived at the final and most powerful truth, one that has the potential to shift your entire perspective on life, on yourself, and on the nature of reality itself. Carl Jung did not just see shadow work as a psychological process, he saw it as a spiritual awakening. Because the moment you integrate your shadow, you begin to realize something profound. You were never just a fragmented self trying to survive in a chaotic world. You were always something far greater, something whole, something powerful, something divine. This is the greatest secret of the shadow. It is not your enemy, it is your key to transformation. The very things you have feared within yourself are the same things that will set you free. Think about this. What if every struggle in your life, every painful experience, every repeated pattern was not a curse, but a lesson? What if your suffering was never meant to destroy you, but to wake you up? What if everything you have been running from was actually leading you back to yourself? Jung understood this deeply. He believed that the unconscious mind, the shadow, is not just a storage place. For our fears and repressed emotions, it is also a gateway to something much greater. He called it the process of individuation, the journey of becoming the fullest, most authentic version of yourself. And this journey is nothing less than a spiritual awakening, because here is the truth. When you face your shadow, you are not just healing old wounds, you are reclaiming your true self. The part of you that is fearless, the part of you that is limitless, the part of you that was never broken to begin with. And when you reach this level of awareness, something incredible happens. You stop living from a place of reaction and start living from a place of creation. You no longer see yourself as a victim of circumstance, endlessly repeating the past. Instead, you realize that you are the one shaping your reality. Jung famously said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." What he meant is that most people live their entire lives unconsciously, unaware that their fears, their self-doubts, and their suppressed desires are dictating their every move. They think they are making choices, but in reality, they are being pulled by forces they do not understand. But when you make the unconscious conscious, you take back your power. You no longer act out of fear, you act out of awareness. You no longer attract the same painful cycles, you create new possibilities. You no longer live according to the script that was handed to you. You write your own story, and that is the ultimate truth. You are not here to be a prisoner of your shadow. You are here to integrate it, to master it, and to use it as a source of wisdom and strength. So now the question is, will you dare to do what most people never will? Will you look into the depths of your own being and reclaim what has always been yours? Will you stop running from your shadow and instead walk toward it, knowing that what awaits you on the other side is nothing less than your highest self? Because if you do, if you have the courage to take this journey, you will not just change yourself, you will change everything. This is the forbidden law that the awake dare not break. Those who ignore it remain trapped in illusions, but those who would embrace it step into a life of power, purpose, and freedom. Now it is up to you. Will you take the first step? Thanks for looking.